Hi everyone, and welcome to this video on exam tips and tricks for your English junior cycle examination for June of this year, 2023. And this is brought to you by ExamRevision. And just to let you guys know, if anyone needs any additional support or additional revision, there's a revision course on the 20th of May at 9:30 in the morning. And the 20th of May is a Saturday. And it's going to go on for about 3 hours. So that'll leave you up to the afternoon at about 12:30, okay? So just to get started, I've got some general advice here for us. So this is pretty much for most exams. So revise the basics, make sure you know what you need to know. And then once you've revised the basics, practice your exam questions because your exam papers are so useful at this point and it will help you build up your answering techniques and how to approach the exam because you've practiced the exam papers. Make sure when you're practicing the exam papers or when you're in the actual exam that you read the questions carefully and then that you stay relevant to the question. So make sure you're not going off topic, you're not losing your point, that you're staying relevant to what the questions asked you. And make sure you've backed that up with your references. So your PQE, your point. So make your point, then your quote to back up that point, and then explain it. So explain what the point is and the quote in your explanation. And do not summarize unless they've asked you to summarize. Now, to start with, make sure that you know the title and the author of the text that you've studied. So if this is a film, it'll be the title of the film and the director. And I have some examples of novels. So we've got Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, Once by Morris Gleitzman, and Trash by Andy Mulligan. Another one would obviously be your drama, which would be Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. And make sure the next one is to practice writing these titles and authors and check that the spelling is correct. Because sometimes in the pressure of the exam hall and the exam experience and the time constraint, we might misspell the author's name or even the book sometimes. So just make sure we have that spelling just so we don't lose simple marks. And then on top of that, write out your key quotations from the study text and memorize them. So depending on what way you memorize things best, so maybe reading them aloud multiple times, writing them down as many times as you can, or even just watching a video where they're included in it. Practice speaking or mostly writing for different purposes as often as you can, so that you're constantly practicing with the language, practicing with the purpose of writing, so why you're writing this. Now to move on to the timing. So the exam paper is 120 minutes and it's marked out of 180 marks. So you might want to aim to spend about 3 minutes on a 5-mark question and about 10 minutes on a 30-mark question. And the rest of the time that you've got left over, now they're just an aim, so don't feel too pressurized by those time limits. But when the extra time that you have left over, you can go back to improve your answers, read over your work, check your spelling and your grammar. And getting a good balance. So this is really important when you're answering your questions in English. So don't write too little or too much. So a lot of the time we think just because we've written a large amount or writing loads doesn't mean that we're going to get more marks. Because a lot of the time when we write too much, we've actually lost our point or we've lost the reason we're writing this throughout our writing because we've just kind of watered our writing down. So that's really just about staying on focus with the question. So make sure you're constantly looking back over the question and making sure that you're writing what you're meant to be writing. So don't go on a tangent pretty much. And as well, when we do this and we write too much in a certain section, it could be because we like that section a little bit more, like maybe we like the novel more than we like poetry. But that also means that we've taken time away from our other sections. and just say the novel question was 20 marks and the poetry question was 20 marks. We've left very little time now for our poetry question, and the maximum we're going to get in the novel is 20. But now we know we probably won't finish the poetry question, and we're not going to get really near that 20 marks because we haven't put the time in. Now, our essentials for the exam hall. So make sure you have pens on you in blue and black only. No pencil. Make sure we're not writing in pencil. And I know when you're in an exam, there's this urge to doodle, but just make sure that we do not go near the barcode because that's needed to scan your junior cycle paper so that it can get marked and that you can get the results. No Tipp-Ex should be used either because it can take too long to dry and it can create errors in the scanning process when they're scanning your exam. Also, on top of that, sometimes we might make a mistake in the exam that mightn't be the worst mistake to have made. And if we scribble it or if we Tipp-Ex it out, the examiner might know what you've tried to say there. So if we just have a simple line through it, the examiner knows, okay, that's not going to be in the essay, but it could be a good point that we don't realize because we're under pressure. And it'll also help the examiner realize what path you were going down. Like, why were you thinking this? How did this come up? Just gonna get back to... And the order of answering. So when we get to that exam paper, how are we going to answer? How are we going to start? That can be a big question, especially it's our first big exam, our big state exam. So ultimately it is up to you. So it's entirely up to you. The best way that worked for me when I was sitting my exams was I responded to the sections that I had studied first. So I could just kind of offload all that information that I'd memorized and read over just before the exam started and just let it all out on the paper and not worry. And then I moved on to the unseen sections. That's when like an extract comes up or maybe a poem comes up or an extract from a drama comes up and you just have to read it and answer questions because I didn't find that too challenging because it was just mostly basic comprehension. And then I tackled my favorite sections, which were the more kind of creative questions or the questions with more functional writing that I felt like I had a bit more liberty to express myself in them because I enjoyed answering questions on like maybe writing a story, making a diary entry, stuff like that. So that worked for me because it meant that I offloaded all the information that I needed to get out and I didn't have to worry about it again. Then I moved on to just reading and answering questions. And then I left the exam after completing my favorite bit. And I didn't feel like, oh my God, I didn't mention this about Shakespeare, or I didn't say this, or I didn't answer that question, because I'd ended on something I enjoyed doing. And usually when you like something, you tend to work a little bit better at it and work a bit harder on it. And just so you know, if you do get lost in the exam, you can ask the supervisor for help to understand a question. They're not going to answer the question and they're not going to give you a definition of a word, but they might help your understanding of the question if they're misleading. Like if the question's a bit, throws you off a little bit, they might read it back to you, because sometimes even just having someone else say something to you, you can understand it a little bit more than when you read it in your own head. And they can clarify what the question was really asking you. Now, just before we move on to the rest of the tips and tricks, we're just going to talk about ExamRevision and what ExamRevision can provide for you guys. So this is what a premium plan with ExamRevision.ie can do for you. So it's pretty much like having grinds 24/7 available for you whenever you want it, and you can pick each section of what you want to look at and revise over instead of just going to grinds and hoping that your topic comes up or whatever way you've been doing it till now. So there's bite-sized video tutorial grinds, there's PowerPoints for you to look over, there's distinction notes, there's mock papers and exam papers, and there's marking schemes up on it. There's quizzes for you to test yourself. There's reflection logs as well. And this is what subjects are available for you guys at junior cycle. So we've got Irish, maths, history, science, geography, business, and home ec. So maybe it's a few weeks before the exam now, and we're like, what is an Aimsir Caite? How do I know if it's the Aimsir Caite? Or in maths, what's the circle all about? What is a triangle? In history, what happened in the Cold War, etc. And this is the Leaving Cert subjects that are available. Now, they're not useful for you guys right now, but they will be for you in about a year or so. So Irish, English, maths, history, geography, agricultural science, physics, biology, chemistry, business, economics, French, music, and PE. And this is a discount code for you guys. And we're going to show you just really quickly what ExamRevision looks like when you're in it. So use this code 2023 tips for 20% off premium plan. Now you are billed monthly, and I know it's coming up to close to your exams, so you can just pay for 1 month just for your exams, and then as well you get 20% off. So that's very, very useful. So I'm just gonna get the ExamRevision up here. So for example, junior cycle subjects. So we've got business, geography, history, home economics, Irish, maths, and science. So just example, we use the Irish there. So we've broken it up into some sections. So we've got Gramadach, Filiocht, Drámaíocht, Uirscéal, and Clús-Uiscint. So just say we're really stuck on Gramadach. What is Gramadach? We've got a video on the Aimsir Caite, video on the Aimsir Láithreach, on Adia Cealbach, some quizzes there, presentations, and we've got some notes. And just for as well, then you can also see that there's like Clús-Uiscint practice, Drámaíocht. So if we look at this one, there's a presentation on Drámaíocht we can look at. I might go back to subjects really quickly. And if we look at history, just say, so the work of the historian all the way down to patterns of change, health and medicine. So like I said, we're stuck on the Cold War. What's happened in the Cold War? So we've got the causes, the Berlin blockade and the Korean War, Cuban Missile Crisis, the Vietnam War, and the fall of communism. Quizzes, presentations, we can build our own exam to test ourselves on these topics. And I'll bring us back to the PowerPoint now. So again, that's 2023 tips for 20% off your premium plans with www.examrevision.ie. Okay, so this is my basic for if you're sitting junior cycle or Leaving Cert. So make sure when we get into the exam, we read the questions first, slowly and carefully, and underline important words. We rewrite the question in simpler language, just so we know ourselves what we're being asked. And if there's a passage or an extract that we read and underline and highlight anything that we think could help us answer the question, maybe we put whatever question we're trying to answer, like 1, 2, or 3. Pay attention to how many marks everything is. Don't get stuck making the same point over and over again. Aim for about 1 point every 5 marks, maybe 1 point every 10 marks, depends on the question. Stick closely to answering the question that's been asked. Don't summarize it unless they ask you to. When you're quoting directly from a text, make sure you're using quotation marks and be organized. So go from point 1, 2, and 3 if it's a long one. Don't go point 1, conclusion, point 4, back and forth. And make sure we keep straight to the point. So, for example, this is from the 2022 exam paper, writing to engage with your audience. So this is a quotation that's used at graduation ceremonies. So first we see this. Suggested time, 25 minutes. It's 40 marks. It's obviously more than just a 10-mark question. So study the quotation below. It is a quotation by Dr. Seuss that's commonly used by speakers in school graduation ceremonies. So we've read the introduction before we've read this, because this is really important. It gives us a bit more information about what's going on here, if they have a little introduction like that. So we know this is used for graduations. Oh, the places you'll go. You'll be on your way up. You'll be seeing the great sights. You'll join the high flyers who soar the high heights. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. Where is my pen? Sorry, 1 second. So first of all, if I was approaching the exam, I know I did it the other way here, but I'm not in an exam. So I would go straight to the question. Do you think the Dr. Seuss quotation above a suitable choice for graduation ceremonies explained? So I'd say, I'd break it down or I'd highlight it. So do I think, and if we don't want to use suitable and we want to break it down, do I think it's good, useful, all those synonyms that we could possibly use for that word. Sorry, it's really hard to write on a computer. That says useful. ETC, that's etc. Or, so do I think suitable graduation ceremonies? So I've read this already, so I know it's for graduation. I go back and read this, and this is question 1. So, the places you go, you'll be seeing great sights. I might put Q1 over this because we're saying great sights, high flyers, high heights. I might just do that in a little. So even just the way it ends here, like, that's really useful to mention. You're off to great places. Q1 again, I'll be using that here. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. So if I was to say anything, answer this question anyway, and why I think it's suitable, I might mention maybe 2 or 3 of these quotes in my answer and why I think that's suitable for graduation. And that took less than a minute to rewrite this, read that before I started, rewrite the question, and go back and find and highlight. Now, obviously, this is a very small piece, so the place you go will be useful as well if I look back over that again. But this is a useful tip and trick just so we know that we're answering the question. Then obviously we do our rough work and then we start answering the question. So please make sure we're doing our rough work as well, because sometimes people think there's not much point in rough work, but there really is, especially in exam. I know it feels like you're taking time out of the exam, but you're not. So these are just some tips I've seen for the exam day from Spun Out. So just before your exam, so make sure on the night before that you get a good night's sleep, and then you wake up and you have a good, nice breakfast to fuel you for the day. You've got everything that you need depending on the exam. So pens, rulers, calculators, if it's maths. You remember your exam number. You get to the center, your school, wherever your exam has been held, about 20 minutes before your exam. Wear a watch, make sure it's non-electronic. And if you don't have a watch, there is a clock in the exam room. You'll be fine. You can look up at that clock. And prepare a rough plan in your head in what way you're going to tackle this exam. And as well, make sure we're staying calm. I know it can be super nerve-wracking for us who haven't sat a big exam like this before. But just remember, stay calm. Read over every question before you hand your paper up. And once you've handed it up, there's no going back. It's finished with now. That's 1 down. A few more to go, and then you've got summer. And if you're struggling, you can talk to people, your friends, your parents, guardians, a teacher. It is completely normal to be worried or stressed. And it's perfectly okay to let that out and let people know. So that is it for today. I'm going to just put it back up onto this for a discount code. So thank you very much. And best of luck with your exams. And again, if you want more information about the exam revision in May, you just go to examrevision.ie for more information. So it's 20th of May, junior cycle English exam revision. And then there is our discount code, 2023 tips for 20% off. So good luck. Thank you very much. And enjoy your summer once this is all over.